Today is a little bit different in that you won't hear Nikki's voice or see her on video. So I'm running solo with the fabulous Darcy Smyth. Thank you so much for joining me today,
Yeah, thanks
Darcy.
for having me, Vanessa.
You're
Appreciate it.
so welcome. And as I said in the intro, like we've known each other for a very long time, and you have probably taught me the basis of everything I know about sales.
I'll take that as a
From
compliment. I hope it's set you
it
up
is,
well.
it is. I'm still in business, so here we are, all these years later. And we know that you are an incredible mentor in this space, and have definitely uh, for me, and I can speak on my behalf because Nikki's not here, but it has definitely made a big impact on how I approach sales because I love the one thing that you taught me in the early days was all about what problem are you solving? And
Mm,
it's a beautiful approach to how to help people and how to make sure that you are solving a problem for someone and they're paying you for that. So that's something that has always stuck with me, Darcy. And
that's
then, of
good.
course, there's just like layers upon layers of other pieces of gold that I picked up along the way. But I thought that we could kick off perhaps with a question in relation to we are post COVID, obviously.
Mm.
Somebody was saying though, in January or February, it'll be like 5 years since it all started. They were
Oh
saying
man.
that is crazy. So, but right, in 2024, there's economic and market business impacts that are happening.
Mm,
I notice in a lot of the groups that I'm in on social media, people jump in and talk about how hard business is, how hard it is to get sales, depends on which perspective you're listening to, right? But I think there is
mm.
momentum out there in the way that media talk to us about the issues in the world. So, from your perspective in the world of sales, how has the landscape changed over the past, 4 to 5 years since
Yeah,
all of this has happened?
yeah, appreciate it, Vanessa, and thanks for having me today.
So welcome.
So yeah, we're in an interesting spot sales-wise, economy-wise. You're right, it does depend on which industry you look into and who you're listening to as to whether things are super difficult or just a little bit difficult or just normal business difficult.
Yep.
But the main thing overall is that the deals are still there to make.
Hmm.
Sales are still there to be closed. They do just tend to take that extra little bit of nurture, that extra little bit of follow-up. I won't even say little bit of follow-up, that extra bulk of follow-up, and
Hmm.
a little bit more patience for the deals to come over the line when they do. So money never really evaporates. When people say the
Mm.
money's tight, that doesn't mean anything. All that ever means is that money is just being held by a particular part of the market or by a particular set of people, and they're not really spending it all that much. But sooner or later, it actually becomes detrimental for those people to hold on to that money because a lot of the time that money is made by investing in things. So the
Hmm.
longer they're holding on to it, the less investments they're making, and therefore the money is actually starting to cost them by not investing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's not long before that dam bursts through, and those people holding on to the money go, okay, let's actually put this back out into the market again, and away we go. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but it's a pretty true context to see through all of this, right? Now, when that's the case, you got a couple of options. So you can basically continue to be in a market that sells something that is nice to have.
Hmm.
And if you're selling something that's nice to have when there's not so much money floating about, then all you can really do is nurture, add a ton of value, be there, be present, be seen, be visible, so that when the money does turn back on again, in quotation marks, then you'll be the first person they think of when they're thinking, oh, wow, I need a gold bumper bar for my car,
Yeah.
or I need whatever it may be, crystal laced shoelaces. Like I'll buy it
Yeah.
then when that's the case, right? But the other way that I believe is valuable, particularly in a market like this, is it gives you the chance to really assess how much of your business is a need to have business. Because
Hmm.
if you're a need to have business, then you'll flourish when times are tough and you'll actually flourish when times are good. You'll flourish all the time.
Hmm.
The ideal business that you should have is one that is always a need to have product.
Hmm.
If
Mm.
you don't believe that you're a need to have product, the way you can look at that is that you simply don't understand the deep problems that you're solving for a market on both an individual level, so for them, the individual, but also from an ROI perspective, literally a logical and financial level. If you don't know the problems that you're solving and that you can't add that up for people, you'll always be seen as a nice to have and not a need to have.
Mm.
Please let me know if I'm going on a rant here, but the
No,
model, yeah, cool. The
making
model,
sense.
right. The model that we teach for this is what I sort of came up with this around about sort of 60 days ago. I was putting these thoughts together around, and particularly in a tougher market, the thing that people experience a lot more is rejection, right?
Yep.
And I thought, well, what are the keys to be in place that if these were in place, then rejection wouldn't be experienced? What would be the ultimate business to create, right? And when you think about that, if you knew you weren't going to get rejected, so if I ask you this, Ness, if you knew that the first person you were going to call up today was going to say yes to whatever you offered, whether that's a meeting or a product or a sale or whatever it is, they were going to say yes, how quickly would you get on the phone?
Really quick.
Really quick.
Yeah.
If you knew that that you were going to do that for tomorrow, the next week, the next month, and the next 6 months and 12 months after that, all you were going to hear was yeses, what do you think we'd need to do to get you off the phone? I reckon we'd probably need to stick a bit of dynamite in between your left ear and the phone and blow it off and blow
That's
your hand off
right.
in the process, right?
Yeah.
A good salesperson would be like, just sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem isn't that we are afraid of going outbound or that we're afraid of, putting our products out there or that we're afraid of having sales conversations. That's not the problem. The problem is we're afraid of rejection. That's why people aren't taking action. That's why people are afraid of jumping on the phones. That's why it feels harder in a tougher market. What you're saying when you're saying this feels harder is, I feel like I'm going to experience more rejection.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to. So the 4 things that you need to understand in order to not have any sense of rejection or not fear that rejection, 4 things, we refer to it as what's called the more magnet, M-O-R-E, more magnet. Meaning, if you have these 4 things in place, M-O-R-N-E, then you'll have clients that are magnetized towards you and you won't need to feel like you're the squeamish, awkward sales convincer anymore, which is a good one. So the first thing that you need to have in place is you need to understand your market.
Yep.
And when we talk about understanding your market, we refer to a couple of things here. The first thing is that you understand the specialization that you're in. So you can specialize in 2 different ways. You can specialize by focusing on a particular part of the market. In a lot of work that we do, myself and my business partner, Steve Clayton, in the work that we do, we have a specialized niche of $10 to $50 million construction and manufacturing companies, project-centric companies, using HubSpot as their CRM. Completely blue ocean for us. No one else exists there. We dominate that space. We're the go-to for all of those businesses, and they come to us. They're magnetized to us because of that. Okay. If you're not going to specialize in a particular part of the market, the only other thing you can do is specialize in your product. And if you're going to specialize in the product, you need to be what we refer to as what's called the lamb man. The lamb man comes from this. Every Saturday morning, myself and my partner Ash, we go down to the Kawana markets, like Sunny Coast markets here. We get our fresh veg and our fresh meat and all this sort of stuff. Very Sunshine Coast thing to do. Everything's organic and spray free and whatnot, right? All a very little bit special and precious, isn't it, Vanessa?
Yeah.
Anyway, just eat a white bread sandwich.
Exactly. From Bunnings, the one
yeah, exactly. So there's a guy there, Carey is his name, and he's the man we buy our lamb from every week. And this man is obsessed with lamb. All the signs out the front say Queensland's best lamb, Australia's best Dorper lamb. You'll never find anywhere, whatever. You shake his hand, and to him, lamb is the world. Like, he even looks a little bit like a little lamb. Like, he is just lamb. He's obsessed with lamb, right? Now, he doesn't rock up to those markets and go, my ideal customer is a Sunshine Coast-based 40-year-old male that has a dog and whatever. He's like, I'm just obsessed with lamb. I just love my product. So if you're going to not specialize in a particular part of the market, you need to specialize in your product, and you need to think that your product is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you need to sing that from the rooftops and back that hill 5 times more than you even think you are right now. Like, you need to become a walking, talking lamb man as far as your product is concerned. Right? That's the only way you overcome the fact that you haven't specialized into a particular market segment just yet, right? So that's the first part about M. You need to understand your specialization. Who do you specialize in serving? The next thing you want to understand about your market is the problems that are experienced by that market. And we refer to this as what's called the 3-headed monster. So the three-headed monster is the three problems that your buyer always has at least one of. I'll say that again. Your three problems that your buyer always has at least one of. So if I was an accountant, I might say to you, Vanessa, people come to us at our accounting firm because they're experiencing one, two, or even all three of these problems. First problem, they only ever hear from their accountant when there's a bill to pay or bad news to be delivered. Second problem, you don't have any understanding around how you can actually use the money in your business account to make strategic investments into other businesses and other futures. A lot of accountants just count the money. They don't actually strategically advise you. And then the third is that you don't have any access to government grants available and free money for your industry. The accountant doesn't actually think that's his or her priority to actually teach you. They think you should go and do that yourself. Curious, Vanessa, any of that going on for you? You'd hear that and go, yeah, a bit of all three going on there with my accountant, I think. What do you got to offer, right?
Yeah.
So that's the M, the more magnet of the more magnet, which is knowing your market. What's the specialization and what three main problems does that market run into that if you spoke to them on any given day, you could be guaranteed that they're going to have at least one of those. That's really key. With me so far, or am I?
Absolutely. Loving it.
Excellent.
I'm loving it. I'm
Excellent.
making notes.
Oh, that's awesome. Notes
I'm
are always a good
thinking
sign.
how can we apply this in our own business?
There you go. Love it.
Love
It's
it.
the best part about running podcasts, isn't it? Like you
Yeah.
get to just learn as you go.
Absolutely.
Right? So O is all about your offer. So once you know your market really well and you know the problems that they have, ideally you should be able to create an offer that fits like a hand in a glove to their problems. And the key with your offer is that it ideally needs to be better or different from the rest of your competition. If it's the same as your competition, offered at pretty much the same way in pretty much the same price, then ultimately what you're looking at is you better get your running boots on because you're headed for a race to the bottom on price. That's the only way that can ever end up. If there's no differentiating fact, your buyer knows they can come to you and go compare apples for apples and go pretty much the same. I'm just going to take the cheapest one because why wouldn't they? Right?
Yep.
So once you've got your M, your market problem, your O is your offer, which matches those problems perfectly, and you're different or better from the rest.
Yep.
Imagine, Vanessa, I said to you then, hey, go out there and make some cold calls, go approach the market. Here's all their problems in a specialization, and here's the perfect solution to match it. You're starting to think, okay, I could probably get on this. You're still not the stick of dynamite to blow it off, but I'm pretty keen to get on the phone here. Okay, cool. The third thing you want to understand is R, which stands for return on investment, your ROI.
Yeah.
Meaning, do you clearly know and how much do you genuinely believe that if your buyers buy this thing to solve that problem, that they're going to be getting a good return on investment on the money they spent? What you want to know and believe, if you do the napkin maths around it somehow, in some way, whatever, there's different ways we go about this, probably for a different webinar, but what you want to understand is that there's at least a 5-to-1 ratio return on investment to what they spent in terms of when they make that buying decision. So if you look at it and go, I reckon if you give me $1, I could easily make you 5 back. Or if you're going to spend 10 grand with us, but you're definitely going to make at least 50 back, you're going to spend 100 grand with us over the next 12 months, you guarantee we're going to get you 500 grand back just based on the data that we've run, then you know you're in a good spot to be making the deal. Ideally, what you want to get to make it a absolute no-brainer is 10-to-1. So somewhere between 5 and 10-to-1 is a really good spot to sit for your ROI. And you need to know and believe that that's the case when people work with you or buy your product or buy your service. Anything more than that, and it actually starts to become a little bit unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the market actually tends to notice that and go,
yeah,
sounds like
we
a
see
scam.
that. Like, make $1 million in 3 months.
Exactly. Yeah, not true, right? As opposed to multiply your income by 1.4, add 40% to what you're already earning. People go, it's within range.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, right? Okay, cool. So we have our market and we understand their problems and they're in a specialization. We have an offer to match that market. We know there's a clear ROI on what we're going to sell that market and what we're going to offer them. The fourth part is that you want to make sure that you're talking to people who can execute on the decision. So decision makers. And decision makers, we include this part in the more magnet because we know for sure, Vanessa, so many people, you and I included, have had awesome sales conversations with people in the past. It's an absolute smack out of the park. Everyone's happy. And then it turns out after 4.5 months of deliberation, you weren't even talking to the decision maker yet.
Yeah.
And so that can, really stick a fork in things. But here's the thing. If I said to you, Vanessa, we know the market, we're in a specialization, we understand their problems. We've got an offer that fits like a hand in a glove and it's better or different from anything else out there. we've clearly calculated the ROI and we know how to explain that to our buyers. Oh, and by the way, every single person you're going to be talking to is a decision maker. How quickly would you want to get on the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. I
That's
always
how you,
remember
yeah.
I remember the thinking early in my business because I had this really big challenge of stepping out of this corporate kind of mindset of I've never sold anything. Hello, selling things every day,
Yes, yes.
concepts, ideas, getting people across the line as a leader. But in my
Yeah.
head, apart from my Mary Kay days when I sold one lipstick at a party,
Yeah.
I made $10. I had this belief that, I don't know sales, blah, blah. But one of the key things I think that I really got to early on in the business was knowing that what I had to offer was going to make a difference for the person that I was talking to. And that thought process around, it is selfish of me to not do
Mm,
everything I can to help them make a buying decision because I know the world of pain they're in will
mm,
continue if they don't have what I have to offer them, this product that I can give them that is going to help them shift from pain to where they want to be in their business.
mm,
So it's that whole flipping it across to, and I think back, when that's been on point with clients over the course of my previous business, in our current business, it really is, it's just a no-brainer. The conversation flows. People say that, yeah,
yes.
it just becomes, I can't, I can't not sell to you
There you
because
go.
I know this is going to be the thing that you absolutely need and it's going to get you where you need to go.
Yep. I can't not sell to you. And then they're sitting there thinking, well, I can't not buy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where do we sign?
Exactly.
Yeah. They're the
So I
best
love
sales
that
to make.
perspective, Darcy, because one of the things we talk to our clients about all the time is looking through the lens of a model
Mm,
helps you step out of the emotion of it and really kind of step above what's going on. Because I think that when we're in the thick of it, we're in the mud, when we're living. So the people who say it's so hard out there at the moment, and blah, 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 they're in the weeds. And
mm,
and this kind of thing allows you, I believe, to step back and look at it and go, okay, if I were to do a little bit of a process here where I jotted down what is it? What do we understand the specialization? Could we articulate that really quickly and easily to anyone
mm.
else? What is our offer? How does it? And then the ROI and each of those to really do that. It's like that a health check around where are we at through this process.
There you
It
go.
means that we can actually be a little bit more objective in the way that we look at our business. And what I love about that is that stops us from being caught into the belief system of other people who say danger, danger, it's awful, it's awful. People going out of
Mm,
business and nobody's got any money. And exactly what you said at the beginning. I remember hearing about that in one of the money courses that I did. It's like, it's not like all this money's just left the world. It's just the people who have it, like it's still there.
yes.
The money still exists,
In
right?
fact, they're printing more of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so the money will always be there. It's about how do you access what's out there. And I
Yes.
think what you've stepped us through in this model, the more model, with the lovely story of the lamb man. Do
Yes.
you
Yes.
ever forget that?
Yes.
I think that that really gives business owners and salespeople the opportunity to think about it through a different perspective
Yes.
that steps out of buying into the agenda of COVID, like everything I started with, COVID, market,
Mm,
economy. Over time, things will shift. It just does. You only
mm,
have to look at the share market over the last, how many hundreds of years, and it will always bounce back. Business will always bounce back. Something will always come. But I think the difference between those who are still in business and able to create an opportunity is to be able to be objective about what's going on and
mm,
create change based on what they observe.
mm. Well said.
Yeah. So I'd love to just, before we wrap up, I just want to come back to this rejection concept.
Mm.
And I know that for me early in business, that was a big thing. It was like, oh, I'm really being annoying and people don't want to talk to me. What happens if they don't like me? All that kind of stuff. So what's your best piece of advice other than this model around this concept about rejection in sales? Because I would have to say that from all the people that I've spoken to at a peer level who have
Mm.
struggled with sales, the rejection thing, whether we say it out loud or not,
Mm,
is
mm,
actually one of the, because it's a core human need, isn't it, to be accepted
totally.
and to be
Yeah.
liked.
Yes.
And so, how do you get out of your own way when you're fearful of rejection, other than doing a process like this? So, because I know you know the psychology, the human behavioral, and that's your specialty as well. What do you think that would be?
Give me an example of an answer that you're looking for here, because there's multiple different
Uh,
ways I could take this.
I guess it's that whole thing. When I think back to early days in my business, you know, some of the gamification of things
Mm,
is to actually, you know, have a fail strategy. Just go out and seek some no's.
mm,
Like get over that fear that people are going to say no to you. Another thing I
mm.
learned off you and Steve, flip a 50-cent piece 31 times. And it will never come up with heads 31 times, tails 31 times. It
Yes.
constantly changes. And so that was a huge thing for me around sales, because you can go no, 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 and then there'll be a yes. Or
Yeah.
you go yes, 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 and then you can guarantee you're going to get a no. And I think the day we did that in a training room together, it came out. Someone recorded how many times it went heads, and someone recorded how many times
Yeah.
tails, and it was about, you know, around 15, 16.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I'm sort of like, what's the little mental tricks that help us to just put it into perspective and go, it's okay. It's okay. Not the world isn't rejecting us because of this.
Yeah. I think the key is understanding that rejection is information.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a product that you're selling and you're getting rejected on it often,
Mm-hmm.
to bring it back to the more magnet, although that was my intention here, but to bring it back to that, then it helps you realize there's one of these four that we're clearly missing.
Yeah.
And that aside now, you could use any model that you're using to experience rejection or experience the putting the product out there and seeing how it goes, throwing it out to the market and letting the wolves have at it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
When people get annoyed at you or they say no or whatever it may be, if you can understand why they're annoyed or why they said no, then all it does is give you information to leverage into the next call that's going to make you better, or leverage into the product to make it even better, or leverage into the way that you're marketing the product to make it even better. So you can never lose on making a sales call. You can't. There's no way you can lose. You either win a deal or you learn why someone didn't buy it and then you adapt accordingly. How good is
Mm.
that? The
Yeah.
tough thing, though, I do understand. The tough thing is realizing you're the human being at the center of it all, having to make these calls. And if you're taking that rejection personally,
Mm.
all it says is that you're holding your self-worth around what you have. Meaning, if they rejected the product that you have, they're rejecting you.
Yeah.
And that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not. People are rejecting the product. They'll forget about you 10 seconds later, but you tend to remember them for the next 10 years if
Yeah.
they had a crack at you,
That's right.
right? But all they're doing is rejecting the product. And here's the thing: they may be even rejecting your pitch,
Yeah.
but that's still not you.
Yeah.
You are not your pitch.
Yeah.
You're you. That you're the
Yeah.
person who made the pitch, but you're not the pitch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone can ever have any hope of ever touching the real you when it comes to rejecting you on a sales call. It just
Yes.
can't be touched.
Yeah.
They can only reject your offer, your pitch, your product, whatever it may be, but they'll never reject you. They can't. In the same
Yeah.
way you can't ever reject them. It's not possible.
It's funny actually, as you're saying that, what jumps into my mind is when you go, not that I go to McDonald's, but that
Mm.
whole do you want fries with that kind of concept.
Yeah.
Like the pimply 16-year-old who could have been one of my kids at any stage in life.
Yes.
She says, you want fries with that? And I go, no, thanks. It's like, I know nothing about them. I'm not rejecting them.
Exactly. You're just
Imagine
rejecting the fries.
if you're on the counter at Macca's and everyone who said no to, do you want fries with that? You're like, went home and went, nobody likes me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think sometimes when you put it into the you know, what's the crazy side of the way that we hold ourselves and our ego so tightly, hold on to that, right?
Mm.
So
Hmm.
there's a bit of lightness required in that, like how, and that's what I love about, you know, the what I've had to do with you and Steve over the years around the gamification around sales and having fun with
Mm.
it, and the sales game when we're in the room together, you know, with like chips and trying to, like, it was fun. And
Yeah.
I think that during times like the challenging times, and I'm not undermining that there aren't challenging times, because you know that it is. You talk to people, there are people struggling out there more so than what they have been in the past. but take ourselves lightly.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's,
yeah.
I
If you take
think
yourself
that's
too
key.
seriously in this game, yes, you're stuffed.
I know.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
about, watching, my son and I used to watch that show around the property, the Australian one. Can't remember what it's
Okay.
called, but it
Yep.
had the just the confidence of those people who were getting out there selling these multi-million-dollar Sydney properties.
Mm,
It's just like they're Teflon. It's just,
yes,
there is nothing in them that walks away going, oh, maybe they don't like me.
yes.
It's just fascinating to see the human behavior behind it. But that is a whole nother podcast episode for
I reckon.
sure.
Yeah.
I love this more model, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And I wonder, like, I feel like for me, if Nikki and I were to sit down and work our way through that, like, that might be something that we schedule a bit of a block of time in our calendar for. But if
Mm,
somebody's listening to what we're talking about today, we've gone on a couple of different angles, what would be a great starting point for them if they are experiencing tough environment out there?
mm,
What's the one thing that you would suggest they do in the next 24 hours that's actionable that could
love it.
start them on the journey?
Love it. Um, call the last 10 people that you sold to
Hmm.
and ask them what were the challenges and frustrations and pain points you were experiencing before we actually met,
Okay.
and get the clear understanding direct from your market in terms of the language they use to describe the challenges and frustrations that led them to actually reach out and buy something.
Mm.
Because that's the gold. Like if you can uncover those exact words that people are typically using, that's your sales pitch. You just go straight to everyone like them, use similar language, and go, "Hey, a lot of your peers are experiencing A, B, and C. Curious to know if you've got a bit of the same going on." And they go, "Yeah." And you go, "Great. Well, those people bought this, solved it. Would you like to have a look?" Makes it a whole lot easier. The only other option that you have is guesswork
Mm.
and your opinion
Mm.
and your assumption about what the market may or may not be saying and what you think their problems are. But if you do that, actually, what you often end up with is just the problems you might have had at some stage. In fact, there's almost nothing else you could possibly end up with other
Yes.
than that if you're assuming. So I'd rather actually get the data, let the data speak, let the opinions of your buyers speak so much more than just what your opinion is and what you think should be the problems that they're experiencing.
I love that.
Give them a call, make 10 phone calls.
Yep. Okay.
Mm.
Gonna take you up on that challenge.
Yeah, done. Good work.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Darcy. So much gold in our conversation, and I always love our conversations. So really appreciate you coming on to this solo episode without
Yeah.
Nikki, but I know she'll be listening back and getting so much value from this as well. So thanks, Darcy.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Okay. See ya.